Hello, I'm Jason Turvey, the middle-aged revolutionary, and joining me, as ever, is my friend and comrade Terry Eaton. Terry, how are you?
Hello, Jason. Long time no see.
Long
I'm
time
very
no
well,
see.
thank
Long
you.
time since we've done something like this. But recent events have brought us to YouTube again, and what we're talking about this time is uh, Project Corbyn 2.0. Who's in? Well, apparently 500,000 people have joined the party or signed up to a mailing list, whichever way you want to look at it. And just to give you a kind of catch up on how we got to where we are, we're recording this on Thursday, the 31st of July. So 4 weeks ago, 3rd of July, uh, Zara Sultana, MP for Coventry East, I believe, announced that she is leaving the Labour Party and starting a new project co-led by Jeremy Corbyn. There's then a period of a couple of weeks of distinct confusion, I think it's fair to say.
Hmm.
There was rumours abound that Jeremy Corbyn was angry, livid, possibly, that this announcement had been made without his knowledge. So everyone was like in this period where is he going to start a new party? Isn't he going to start a new party? Then on the 9th of July, which was the Durham Miners Gala, of which I was an attendee, Jeremy Corbyn was on the main stage giving one of his speeches. And there were rumours abound that maybe he was going to announce the new party there, and he didn't. In fact, I stood there watching him drone on for about 10 minutes in what was, I have to say, an incredibly dreary speech um, by a man who, and I mean this with no disrespect, he's looking a lot older these days than he did a short while ago. Doesn't mean he hasn't got a bit of fire in his belly, perhaps, but you know, he's what it is. It was a very dreary speech,
Hmm.
talking about morals and choices and things like this, and it's like, oh, for
Hmm.
goodness sake. Anyway, moving on now to 25th of July, and Corbyn confirms that a new party is being founded with the placeholder name of Your Party,
Hmm.
a bit like Your M&S, but it's Your Party. Bit of a naff name. Some of his disciples came to his defence and said, "Oh, it's a placeholder name until we can think of a new one." But there we go. And as we sit here talking now, as I said just now, 500,000 people have signed up to this party slash mailing list. Um, some people are making a financial contribution to this new party as well, which in their mind makes them members of this new party. But Terry, I wondered what were your initial reactions to the events of the last 4 weeks. We're talking about from the 3rd of July to now. What's your reaction to what's been going
I was overwhelmed.
on? What really?
um, well, overwhelmed with emotion. It's
Hmm.
because I rejoined the Labour Party after many years in the wilderness because of Corbyn. And we know what happened. And I just can't see. I looked and I thought, here we go again. It's the same old rigmarole leading people down the many, down the rabbit hole on the yellow brick road. It's the same again. And I thought, no, we're not going to fall for it this time. I can't see it. 500,000 people, great. But took interest, didn't say they were going to join or they've paid money. A lot of the members that joined the Labour Party were those members that Ed Miliband said could join for £3, I think it was, at the time. That's why you got a lot of people joining Labour. If it had been 23 quid, you wouldn't have got them all joining. So, if it was a pound, then a lot of people probably could join. But I fell out with a couple of old friends on Facebook. Oh, friends I've known from the early 70s, but they're ex-militants and mostly Trotskyites. But they're still friends. They're not, you're not going to put them in the dustbin because they follow a different political path. And they were saying, well, it's another hope. And I said, another dope, you mean? It is no hope. It's just let them give it a go and then be dismayed again. But it ain't going to happen to me. I can see this doing absolutely nothing but deter people from the real problem, which is The system that we have is not good. It's not fit for purpose. That needs to go. It's got to change. However, democracy doesn't work. It's in Britain. It proves it. And they want to democratize the world, but it doesn't work because we get the same charlatans running the show year in, year out, elected by a democratic process. So it can't work. You can't say he's shit and he's shit. And I said, well, they were both elected democratically. So what you're saying is the system doesn't work. So then somebody fell out with me for saying, oh, for God's sake, give it a chance, and you're killing it at birth. I said, well, I'm not. I'll support you. If you want to go and follow him, and I'll support your right to do that. But I says, don't hold your breath. I'm not going to. I mean, no. I've been a bit flippant when I said I was overwhelmed. I mean, good luck to him if he can do something with it, if he can get the youth of Britain mobilised, whereby they could perhaps see the social democracy for what it is, and maybe they could be sucked up into the unions or into the communist belief or whatever, but at least not just follow down the same old rigmarole of not voting or voting what my dad voted or whatever. At least they might, if you join the party, let them have a go. Let them have a go. The youth are there to be captured.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, before I give my response, I have to give full disclosure. I was a member of the Labour Party from September 2015 to early 2020. I was one of the Ed Miliband vote for £3 people.
Yes, so was I.
I was not a member of my union's political fund at the time. Had I been, then I would have had the right to vote by dint of being a member of the political fund, but I refused to give money to the Labour Party. However, when Jeremy Corbyn decided to run, I decided to join as an affiliate member through my union so I could cast my vote. Now, when I voted in 2015, in September 2015, I voted for only one candidate because you had a transferable vote. I voted for only one candidate, and that was Jeremy Corbyn. And as far as the deputy leader was concerned, I voted for none of them because I thought they were all scumbags.
I did exactly the same.
Yeah. And I dare say a lot of people who voted for Corbyn did exactly that. There was no second preference. And once Jeremy Corbyn had won, I remember I met a comrade in a pub in near Euston Station, where it was announced that he'd won by an absolute country mile. There was no need to transfer. He basically hit the 50% threshold on the first round. And I thought, well, I've done my bit. I voted for him. He's now leader. I really should join and get a bit more involved. And I got involved to the point, and we'll talk about involvement in a minute. But my involvement in the Labour Party got as far as being a delegate to Labour Party annual conference on a couple of occasions, including 2019, where Sir Keir Starmer led the mutiny that created the volte-face on Brexit, which meant the party was doomed at the 2019 general election. And then in early 2020, given that the entire SCG, the Socialist, sticks in me crawl when I say it, Socialist Campaign Group, which involves a bunch of losers, including John McDonnell, Richard Burgon and Ian Lavery, basically none of them between them could come up with a half-decent candidate, so they picked Rebecca Long Bailey, who at a party leader hustings in the run-up to the campaign, which got Sir Keir Starmer elected, she said that she supposes that she is a Zionist because she supports the right of Israel as a state to exist. And the Left Project then was dead in the Labour Party. It died in 2020. My reflections are, because I don't believe that any of the lessons have been learnt by Corbyn, by his inner circle, or by his supporters from the experience of 2015 to 2020, that this project, Corbyn 2.0, is another dead end. It's another dead end because I don't believe it will find any roots in the working class, just like 1.0 didn't. I don't believe it will have learned any of the lessons from 1.0 in terms of how to corral people and organise people into a coherent whole. I think it will be co-opted by all sorts of groups, and I'll quote from some of them very shortly. It will put identity politics even over and above any other considerations, including class politics, and it will do what every single social democratic project has done since the Second World War and probably beyond that, which is to put economics ahead of the class politics at play. So basically, what I mean by that is Corbyn and his ilk will say the system in itself is fine. It's badly run by bad actors, and we need to change the actors. If we had nice people running capitalism, it wouldn't go to war. It wouldn't blow up Gaza. It wouldn't let children starve. It wouldn't arm Nazis in Ukraine. It wouldn't do any of those things. What we need is nice people to run capitalism and do nicer things. It's the mistake that Corbyn, his inner circle, and his supporters have consistently made, is this inability and unwillingness to confront capitalism face on and say that this needs to be thrown out, because Corbyn doesn't want to throw it out, nor does Sultana. What they want is to make it nicer somehow. And the 500,000 people that have signed up to his mailing list / party, in the main, think the same way. They also think that capitalism is basically the only system that's available to us. There's nothing we can do about it. And the best that we can do is to try and make it nicer for everybody. And that's where we are. But I just want to give you some quotes. And this is what I mean about the great and the good. There are a number of prominent Trotskyite formations that have made responses to this announcement. I'll go through some of them in turn. So I'll start off with Socialist Alternative. So Socialist Alternative said that, quote, "The idea of a new left party has migrated out of corners of the organised left to take Britain by storm. Today, Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana made a powerful and official joint announcement confirming a process towards the party's foundation, a call which we wholeheartedly support and will build for energetically. It is our duty and responsibility to fully engage in this process and to assist in making this new party a reality." What about the Socialist Worker? What did they say? Quote, "The scale of the crisis for Labour means the left has an opportunity to build an alternative. How can it best seize it? We need a left that puts forward socialist solutions to the cost of living crisis facing millions of working class people. Imagine what a difference such a left party could make this week. As Labour and Reform UK scapegoat refugees and boost fascist violence on the streets, a new left could say clearly, blame the rich, not migrants." How about the Revolutionary Communist Party? "Finally, there is a political alternative on the left for ordinary workers and youth. A party that stands against an economic system that protects the interests of corporations and billionaires, against war, genocide, and our government's complicity in crimes against humanity, against cuts and privatisation. The RCP calls on all our supporters and readers to throw their weight behind this new venture."
Yeah.
And I'll give the final word to the Socialist Party. They say, "It is therefore welcome that on 3rd of July 2025, Zara Sultana MP has drawn the right conclusions that the time has come to build something new. In response, Jeremy Corbyn has also put out a message that the democratic foundations of a new party will soon take shape." Well, I should say, in response to the Socialist Party, before I throw over to you, Terry, Socialist Party started an online petition calling for the formation of a new workers' party in association with the trade unions. And by the trade unions, I'm guessing that the Socialist Party really mean not the members, but they mean the trade union bureaucracies, because it's only the trade union bureaucracies that are overtly politically active in the trade union movement these days. Well, they put this petition on, and they had an online meeting, and apparently there was loads of people there. And at the last count, the last time I checked, it may have gone up since 1,100 people signed the petition. So it's clear that there's not necessarily much of a groundswell for a new workers' party in and of itself, but there's certainly a groundswell for a new Workers' Party or a new party of the left that's led by Corbyn. Would you agree with that, Terry?
Yeah, I would. But 2 points. The first 2 points on what you've read out. The Rebecca Long Bailey issue that sticks in my mind because when she said what she said, I knew then because I at me time I thought she's not bad. She speaks okay. Given the opportunity, she might do something, but maybe not in this party. But she seemed decent, but she fell under the spell of Hodge and LL regarding anti-Semitism, terrified of being classed as an anti-Semite. So she said what she said, and she was finished. And Corbyn said basically the same, and he was finished then. So why wouldn't he be finished now? Because that it will come up again, and he couldn't fight it last time, and he won't fight it this time. So that'll be the end of that. The other point was Lali, what Revolutionary Communist
Oh,
Party. Never
Fiona
to be left.
Lally.
They might be having a party, but they're neither revolutionary nor communist.
No, they get on GB News a hell of a lot, don't they?
She spends more time on TV than Farage, and that takes some doing. And yet, why if they're so revolutionary, why don't they invite Jyoti Brar to speak on Good Morning TV or GB News or Sky? She never gets asked, or
No.
Ranjit or any of the communists, or give them Alex would give them a good argument, Comrade
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
Why they don't ask anybody else? Because they're all part of that amorphous mass: Socialist Alliance, Socialist Alternative, Left Plus, the Left Step. I've seen it all before in the 70s with the magazines that Revolutionary Communist Group.
Yeah.
They had a paper called The Next Step, I think it was. They were Trotskyites, basically. If they want to be Trotskyites, that's fine, but that ain't going to change Britain. We saw what happened with them before.
Well, we discussed this before. Without making this too Trotskyite heavy.
No, we don't want to do that.
We did discuss this a little while ago. I think it's fair to say, whatever we might think of Trotskyism as a school of politics, it had far more roots in the working class in the 1970s than it does now.
Correct.
There were lots of Trotskyite formations and obviously there were key agitators in the Builder Strike in 1972 that had affiliations to Trotskyite organisations. But that's gone. That was 50 odd years ago.
Yeah,
Trotskyite organisations tend generally, outside of the Trotskyite old guard, the Dave Nellists of this world, for instance, and the Alan Woods and people like that, mainly students. It's mainly students that they organise. They do not organise in working class fields. I've said before. I don't know if I said it on a YouTube video, but sorry. I again, full disclosure. I stood for the Trade Union and Socialist Coalition in 2014 in Tower Hamlets, and we did a debrief. So basically, it was a rather unrewarding couple of weeks trudging around Tower Hamlets, leafleting on my own. I was helped on one day by one person. And I scored a whopping 98 votes at that election. They're my 98. No one's going to take them away from me. And cut a long story short, we ended up in this community hall in Bethnal Green, where we did a debrief. Now, everyone that I'd come across and everyone that I'd met while standing for Tusk in that little period in 2014 turned out were all from the Socialist Party side of Tusk. When I went to this debrief, everyone there was not only the people from the Socialist Party that I ended up getting to know, but all these people from the Socialist Workers' Party turned up, none of which I'd ever met before. And they were all putting in their two penn'orth worth about how the campaign went in Tower Hamlets and stuff like that. And between them, these Socialist Workers' Party members were journalists, teachers, professors, doctors. There was not one blue-collar working class person among them. Not one. Not one. And it was a real eye-opener for me, having experience of the Socialist Workers' Party firsthand. And they, I mean, beyond the wallies that stand outside every trade union meeting trying to sell the socialist worker and everyone tell them to get stuffed. But I mean, like, you know, real socialist workers' party. And it was like, it's precious little wonder that Trotskyism has got so little purchase in the working class, because they don't even bother going to the working class. But what they do instead is that they infiltrate things like Corbyn's new party, the trade union bureaucracies, and so on. That's how they try and get their influence, isn't it?
Yeah, but all those parties are like entryist parties through the Labour Party. So you had militants in Liverpool. Now, the lads I knew, most of those guys, I never heard them quote Trotsky once. They just wanted a revolution. They wanted the revolution to start in Liverpool and carry on from there. They didn't fucking weren't even interested in that kind of political thing of democratic voting. They wanted to tear the walls down of the town hall, blow the fucking place up, and have a go. So that's revolutionary, you know, in that respect. But now the academics quote Trotsky, and people will stop going on about fucking Tariq Ali. God, this guy said to me, "Oh, you know nothing, you." He said, Tariq Ali was fighting for workers' rights when you were in short pants. And I went, "How old do you think I fucking am?" I said, "I remember Tariq Ali when he was fighting for student rights. He's a lot older than me, but he's not 50 fucking years older than me, you know." Another Trotskyite who wrote a good book, but no time for him. There's loads of them, but they're the academics who infiltrate these parties.
Yes.
They're not the average guy who goes to work. Who I work with at Postman, and he's sadly he's dead now, but he retired when I left the post in Chester. Now I didn't know, but he told me over the years that he was a member of the militant tendency, and he used to go over to the meetings in Liverpool, and he was a Jehovah's Witness, but he believed in revolution. Now, Jehovah's Witness is not my cup of tea, but I don't knock if they want to do it. That's fine. I've got friends who were in that, and he was, and it shocked me. I said, "But how do you know, talk about revolution and breaking the walls of, well, breaking down the walls of heartache? How can you do that and then preach Jesus and the love of God?" Easy, he said, you know, and then the two are aligned. Revolution and God is. Anyway, we won't go down that route. But Tommy was a great guy, and it just shocks you to find he was a true person who knew politics. Used to read. He gave me a few books on Zola, which I would have never read otherwise, which opened my eyes to a lot of French things. And the people like that. But today, as you say, if you're looking for capturing students, the Trotskys have got Trotskyists in those parties that you mentioned. I've got a head start on everyone. If they think they can go to Freshers Week, and they've already got it boxed off. You know, they know the score. If you can go to universities in Chester because they're talking about doing it there, fine, I'll go. But I did it for the Workers' Party, and they took the leaflets, but they're not interested. They want to go on the piss.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my lad was the same, impressed when he went to university. They go for that first week. They're away from home. They can do what they want, smoke marijuana, drink whiskey, do whatever. No one knows. They love it. They're not interested in politics.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But
So
yeah,
I just think it's a dead duck. But I still believe that you've got to capture the youth for the future of the country.
Oh yeah, that's certainly true. But what you can't do, and again, I don't want to make this too Trotskyite heavy, but
I know.
We'll go back to the matter at hand in a moment. But what the Trotskyite parties tend to do is they recruit these people as students. They're in the party 2 or 3 years. They become completely disillusioned. They leave the party. They leave Trotskyism. They leave leftism. They leave everything and end up usually working for Spiked or something like that. But you know, they basically it's a hamster wheel. These people go in and they're thrown out again after 2 or 3 years, embittered, disillusioned. And not only do they reject Trotskyism, they reject communism, they reject socialism, they reject everything. Because they get a false dawn. They're promised the world, and then when
the brains have been addled.
Yeah,
brains have
their
been
brains have been
poisoned by
addled,
it.
and they bomb out thinking it was a complete waste of time and won't work, and it's a failure, and that's very regrettable. But let's go back to Project Corbyn 2.0 now. 500,000 people have signed up to a party/mailing list. I'm prepared to sit on the fence whether or not this is actually a party or a mailing list.
Well, it's like the Workers' Party; it'll just be a list.
Well, I actually, it's funny because when I was thinking about doing this recording today, it reminded me briefly of the Workers' Party's COVID tax petition, which for a while the party took to mean its entire membership list.
Yes.
And then ended up having to pare out. So basically, what they did, during the COVID, they set up a petition online for people to sign to lobby for a COVID tax. So basically, a wealth tax on the wealthiest in society to pay for things like furlough and other COVID related bits and bobs, and a bit more financial support for people who weren't working and what have you. Well, the party hierarchy took that petition as a membership list and started counting them as members. And as it was, most of these people simply filled out a petition online and did nothing else. They weren't going to party meetings. They didn't get involved. They didn't join the party. They didn't do anything. And a couple of years ago, the party had to basically face up and admit that the party numbers that they thought they had was about double what it really was.
Well, that's
exactly out all these people and ended up with half the members they'd started with.
Well, this is exactly the reason that we left, because of non-disclosure, no illumination about things, no transparency, and that's the reason. Then it turns out after we were correct in our assessments of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I won't criticise them online, although they moaned enough about us. But they do nothing for me. They'll go nowhere. Galloway will do nothing apart from line his own pockets, probably.
Yeah, well, it's
sadly,
it's certainly reaching something of a dead end, as social democracy will.
Yeah, all the other parties.
It brings us neatly back to Corbyn 2.0, because this is only going to be yet another social democratic experiment, isn't it? And
exactly.
we're talking about a group of people, and I include Corbyn in this, and he's in a circle, and he's 500,000 email addresses / actual people who have joined this party/mailing list, all hold the same mistaken view, which is that we can return somehow to 80 years previous, to the days of welfare capitalism, to the days of the boom years of 1945 to roughly 1965. And what these people do not understand and will not understand, and I say will not, based on my interactions with some of them on Facebook in the last week or so, what they will not understand. I'll give you an example before I explain my point. I made very clear that Corbyn basically binned his own position on Trident in favour of the Labour Party's position, which was that they would renew Trident. I then also stated that he turned a blind eye when people like Ken Livingstone, Jackie Walker, Mark Wadsworth and Ken Livingstone were all being booted out of his party. And I also said that he got kiboshed into a volte-face on Brexit in 2019. All of those things are, in my view, facts.
Yeah.
Certainly he was leader when all these supporters were being booted out.
Yeah, easy for him.
Who was the witchfinder general. And I was told by a Facebook person that those are all opinions. Well, his position on Trident was that he wanted to scrap it. His position when he was leader was that he didn't.
Correct.
He was the leader of the Labour Party when his not entire support base, but a bulk of his support base, including the most vocal people like Mark Wadsworth, like Ken Livingstone, like Jackie Walker, like Chris Williamson, all got thrown out of the party. All of them. Corbyn did absolutely sod all for any of them.
Yeah.
Nothing. And like I said, he was the one who not only campaigned against Brexit in 2016 when he was a lifelong Eurosceptic, he also allowed the party's position from 2017 to 2019 completely switch round.
Yeah, it's
A second referendum, which basically doomed the party to its
yeah,
worst
it's
political results.
the thing with Corbyn, in my view, it's easy to sit in the back bench and be in the minority and talk changing the world.
Yeah.
It's like I liken it to being at a mass meeting of people standing outside the gate to make a decision whether they're going to go on strike. And you'll always get one or two, but there's definitely one who wants to bring the factory down because he knows the majority of people aren't going to vote for a strike, but he's there as the hero. You lot, you all went back to work. I wanted to go out. The one time that you do get there, or in our case, it was quite often, but that was in the early days. But later on, the one time that you get the actual people to going to vote for a strike, the likes of that gobshite, and Corbyn's no different, would be the ones to say, oh, you know, you got to think about the money you're going to lose, and you got to think about this. They'll turn turtle because they've got no genuine belief.
Yeah.
If he really believed in Tridents or non-Tridents, if you like, he would have stuck to that as a leader. And he should have turned around to the people who went against him and stabbed him in the back the first time. You lot are out. The whole bunch of you who stood against him, even those who voted against him, get out. Yeah. That's one thing I'd say about Galloway, and I've said it before. If he'd have been in Corbyn's position, none of those people would have been in the Labour Party who are still in it now, with Ed Cooper, Jess Phillips, that other cretin with the Hodge, any of them. None of them would have been in there. And he would have surrounded himself by people who supported him. Christ almighty, everyone knows that. You don't sit as the leader amongst a bunch of people who hate you. Yeah. You've got to surround yourself with your supporters to back you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
there isn't, and he won't now.
There is nothing, and I must admit, this is not a necessarily scientific cross section of people. I'm going by my interactions recently on Facebook, but there is nothing that Corbyn did or didn't do in his leadership term from late 2015 to early 2020. Nothing that his supporters won't make an excuse for. Nothing. When I mentioned about Trident, it's the democracy of the party that wills it that we should replace Trident. There's nothing that he... So what was it about the Witchfinder General, Jenny Formby, kicking all these people out of the party? Oh, well, there was an anti-Semitism thing going on and all this. And the other thing that Corbyn stood idly by and allowed to be put through was the definition of anti-Semitism as defined by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And it's not the actual definition of anti-Semitism that was the issue. It was the examples that the IHRA used to buttress the definition. And it basically meant that anyone that accuses Israel of being a racist state, of causing a genocide or anything else, could be construed as anti-Semitic. And Corbyn allowed that to go through. So, you know, we need to be completely blunt with people about Corbyn and the project that he ran in 2015 to 2019 or 2020, which is that there was almost nothing that Corbyn would not buckle on. Almost nothing. Whether it was Brexit, whether it was mandatory reselection, which I don't know if you remember, he basically corralled the trade unions to kibosh mandatory reselections, which would have meant that any MP, any standing Labour MP who was against Corbyn but had a Corbyn backing CLP could get rid of them. And that was swept away. That was abandoned. Well, actually, it was voted out with a sort of coalition of the trade unions and other people on the floor of conference to stop mandatory reselection. He buckled on Trident. He buckled on absolutely bloody everything. Now, what makes you think, if you're one of the 500,000 people who signed up to this party/mailing list, what makes you think now is going to be different? What makes you think that everything that he collapsed on before, he won't do again? Riddle me that. What do you think?
Those 500, well, the ones who were Corbynists from the first time, and probably not all the 500,000 are, but of the ones who are, he can do no wrong. He is like messianic. There's nothing that he can do that'd be incorrect. He'll make, as you just said, they'll make an excuse for everything that he's done wrong or he didn't do right. That's our opinion, or that's my opinion, and whatever. But I understand people's frustrations in seeing the Labour Party, that that some of them may have been a member for all the years up since they were a child, and they've got used to their MP and canvassing for Labour against the Tories, but they haven't seen the big picture. And sometimes when you come out of it, you see a bigger picture, and they haven't seen that maybe we have, perhaps. Now, I'm not going to preach to them and say they don't know anything, but if you've seen it happen once and you got suckered, why would you let it happen to you again? That's my view for me. And it was quite embarrassing to be at my age, to be sucked in like that after that many years not being in the Labour Party because of, well, the start of it was Clause 4, but it just got backed up by the Iraq War. And in the end, I just give up and said, they're just a bunch of shysters. But it was Clause 4 that did it, because it was the Alliance for Trade Unions. And then you look at your unions, I suppose this will segue into what we're talking about, the unions. They'll love this, because then they can back that. Now, is Sharon Graham going to put all the funds of the Labour Party into Corbyn's new party? And all these others who put money into and the Labour Party will have no political levy from anyone. I personally don't think that Keir Starmer would give a shit if all because he gets enough money from private backers to keep them afloat, and he doesn't like being the prime. I don't even think he likes it. He'd sooner spend his time brushing shoulders with the rich and elite of the world at Davos or wherever it is, the G7 conferences go. He doesn't want the tedious task of going to Parliament, to be harangued on a Wednesday by some oik from the Reform Party. This is beyond me. Leave someone else there to deal with it. I'm off to Davos to rub shoulders with Donald Trump, who humiliated him, in my opinion. He just sat there and took it. What are we in Britain? Are our leaders just fucking weak? Well, he sat there next to Trump, and Trump basically, I agree with what Trump said, that Khan was a shit mayor. But he had said, he's a friend of mine, by the way. And I'm looking at him going, I was nearly puking when I saw him sit there. His eyes, rabbits, what's he saying? Tell Trump, what's he saying? Oh, God, it was so funny. If just for that, the value of that.
Yeah. But there is a small number among us who often refer to Jeremy Corbyn as Saint Jeremy of Islington.
Correct.
Because
he can do no wrong.
And it's very, very difficult to avoid sounding derogatory towards his followers. But there is a kind of faith-based belief system around Corbyn, isn't it? I mean, you at the very beginning, you mentioned something that is absolutely true. You use the word hope. And the problem with hope, to use a football parlance, is the hope that kills you, okay? It's the hope of something being different that ends up destroying you, because if you, after consistently failing and consistently hoping and praying and things not turning out the way you wanted them to, it crushes your spirit and it crushes your soul. Now, the point I would make, and I've tried to make this to people on Facebook, and I kind of regret doing it now, because honestly it's like talking to a brick wall, but the thing I've constantly tried to put across to people is, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a political education, if you don't have what I would signify as Marxism Leninism, then hope's all you've got. If you've got Marxism Leninism, you've got an idea, a plan of how to change the world. All you need is a load of people to come with you, okay? But if you don't have a plan, then hope's all you've got, because you've got no plan to change the system. All you've got is the hope that someone will come along and treat it nicer.
Well, their hope is that Corbyn stands in the 26, 20, whatever the election, 27 election, 29, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And he stands against, or someone from this new coalition of socialists, in inverted commas,
Yeah.
stands at election and gets elected to Parliament as leader of the, and then they're going to do all what? What are they going to do? If
Mm.
if all them MPs that are there now in Labour all were out and sacked, and a load of new people came in, then maybe you'd look at it and say, well, perhaps they're going to sit down and change something. But
Yeah.
the underlying thing is that the people who run the real system don't give a real shit what they say in Parliament. All they want them to do is certain things that they can't say. As long as they don't say certain things, you can play around with the unions or do what you want with strikes. We're not fucking interested. We'll just take the work elsewhere, as they have done. And what has the Labour Party done about that? And the trade unions? Fucking nothing.
Nothing.
For years and years and years, absolutely nothing. Another point, when you mentioned before about migrants as an excuse for the woes of the country, in my view, if they took every migrant away from the country now, no matter where they were from, what colour they were, what they were here for, would there be any more houses to live in? Would there be any more jobs? Because there's no steelworks, there's no fucking docks, there's no buildings going on. Well, there is a bit of building work. It's all abroad. Look at the cranes in the Middle East. Look at the well, some parts of the Middle East probably need it, but look at India. Look at China. China building power stations one a fucking week.
Mm. Yeah.
I know they've got millions of workers,
Yeah.
and everyone go, it's easy for them. Millions of workers only get a bowl of rice a day. I said, well, they don't. The
Mm.
cost of living is fucking nothing for them.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
here, you got a shit minimum wage, and so people turn around and go, I don't want to do it. And all the work's gone. So where did they work? Little outreach places that sew bobbles on fucking tart nats. I don't know anything as an example.
Mm.
Paid a minimum wage. And like we said before, and I said right when it came in, that minimum wage will soon become the maximum wage. And that's the benchmark that they'll all go on. Anyone who pays more than that will be like the greatest company ever. Whereas when you had collective bargaining, the strength of the unions, they had to fight for something. People were more interested because they were fighting for their own pay.
Yeah.
Now they're not. They just come in on a Monday, guys. So from April, you're getting a rise of 1%, and they all go, "Oh, thanks, yeah."
Mm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's shit. And
Yeah, it
these fucking
is.
shysters like Corbyn have let this happen.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the fundamental problem with social democracy is it offers no challenge to the system. What it
No,
does, and it's what it's designed to do, is to channel working class anger into dead ends like the Labour Party, like Corbyn Project 2.0, and like the Workers' Party as well. They're
yep,
all designed to channel working class anger into a manageable cul-de-sac and then leave it there. Um, the and I might sound like a broken record, and it won't be the first time I say this. You have to challenge the system itself. If you don't change the
yep.
system itself, not the way the system manifests itself,
No, you've got to change it.
not
The
you've got to
system has
change the
to be
whole
done.
bloody thing. And if you're not prepared to change the whole bloody thing, which I dare say almost all of this 500,000 people on this mailing list are not prepared to do, then your efforts are wasted.
No, but because, correct. Those 500,000, the majority are probably they're sick of the Tories, they're sick of Labour. They don't want Farage. Maybe they don't want Scottish independence and all this, but if they're in Wales, I'm telling you now that the way they've been treated by the Labour Party for 25 years, there's going to be a big change in Wales.
Mm.
I can see that coming.
Mm.
Um, and any party that gets a hold there, possibly reform, will have a landslide.
Well, let's talk about reform briefly, because I've
Please.
checked YouGov's latest polling on Sunday just gone, and that would have been on the 27th of July. And YouGov's polling said that Reform is currently polling at 27%, Labour 24%, the Tories 22%. So if you, and it's very rough maths, if you was to transpose that 27% into seats in Parliament, it's only 175. So that's 150 short of a majority. If you was to put the Tories in, you would probably get over the line, just about. But if I was the ruling class and I wanted to be certain, and let's be honest, right here, right now, as we speak on the 31st of July, the only viable party of governance at the moment, according to the ruling class at least, is Reform. Okay.
Yeah,
It's not Labour. They've blown everything in 12
yeah.
months. Okay. Tories are a basket case. Lib Dems are not a serious electoral
Yeah, I'll
party,
go
in
along
my
with
view.
that.
They can't get enough seats at enough time or in enough time to form a government. So it's left to Reform. If you wanted to be sure that Reform would get over the line one way or another, either as a coalition with the Tories or an electoral pact with the Tories, what would you do? You set up a left party to sink Labour, split the Labour vote, and then make sure that at least Farage got over the line enough that he could then form a coalition with the Tories or some other party. So I am not going to go so far as to call Corbyn a ruling class stooge, but he's certainly doing some of the work. Ruling class is heavy lifting for them, isn't he? By
Yes.
setting up this new party, because I'm not sure that, as some people have tried to say, oh, he's gonna take votes from Reform, Corbyn Project 2.0. I don't see that. I don't see that. I get that there are a lot of working class people who are aligned to Reform, but I don't think it's because it's in lieu of a Project Corbyn
No, it's
2.0.
not. It's not.
Um,
It's
so
it's in lieu of the abject, fucking abysmal performance by the Labour Party.
yeah,
See, if you're in a working class town like mine, it's been Labour since I've seen how many MPs here?
yeah,
Four. You know, it's never been anything else. Its majority was reduced last time
yeah,
by quite a
yeah.
few thousand because of reform.
Mhm.
But people are starting to go out. I noticed at the polling stations it was a lot busier than years gone by. Unless that was just the time that I went, I don't know. But a lot of people say to me, it's reform, for me from now on. They're
Mm.
not political,
Yeah,
but they just see that the Labour Party is, as the council is Labour run. It's totally fucking shite. And people look at it and go, they say, I'm not saying, but people say, it's all brown homeless. And I said, well, you can't prove that, so you can't say it. But it's just odd that nothing ever gets done. Um, the same probably where you live. I don't know whether you live in a sort of a built up area or an estate or a council estate or whatever. But where I am, where you've been, but down in Ellesmere Port, industry's declining. Um, drugs is a high issue. Plenty of barber shops. There's lots of nail bars and vape houses. And what they did the other week, they raided five of these with the MP, went with the police, and he put it on Facebook. Um, been with the police today on Operation such and such, and they went around five Turkish vape shops in Ellesmere Port and hoiked them away for counterfeit cigarettes.
mhm.
Now, if that's all he's got to do is find counterfeit cigarettes, then fuck me. People were going, well, he's found plenty of counterfeit cigarettes, but what about all the dodgy money dealers? Whether these barbers are all sitting out with barber shops um, with no customers, but two or three barbers sitting out there smoking hashish or whatever it is they're doing, and sort of, but no cutting no hair,
Mm.
and one there and one there, money laundering, people say, and I go back to the craze. It's like fucking London,
Yeah, in it,
in it, mate.
in it, mate.
Talking
Yeah, I mean,
about Bethnal Green before.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, it's the fundamental issue is that there's a deficit in democracy, isn't there? Not just in. I mean, we've talked about it in the trade union movement, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. But there's a deficit in democracy. No one goes to council elections. No one votes in council elections, or very few people vote in council elections, and only 59.6% of people voted in the last general election. Now,
Mm.
that's not because people don't vote as a thing, it's because they don't vote for something they don't see any point in. When you
Exactly.
look at the turnout in the Brexit vote, you gave basically the ruling class unwittingly gave the working class the chance to give them a right kick in the bollocks in 2016 with the referendum, and they did.
Mm,
They did,
yeah.
and it wasn't just Brexit that formed the backdrop. It was the fact that we were 6 years into austerity. Services were being cut, housing was being cut. Very difficult to find somewhere to live, very difficult to find a school place for your kid, very difficult to get a doctor's appointment. The NHS was on its knees. People had had enough and decided to get the ruling class back with the Brexit vote. And if nothing else, it shows that if you motivate people enough, they will vote.
Yeah.
But I don't think Jeremy Corbyn's new project will motivate people to go and vote for a different colour rosette.
When Corbyn was running the first time, I canvassed for Labour in the port, and I went round with a guy who's a year older than me, but he'd been a Labour Party member since he was 18, so he'd never changed. And as I walked along, he says, "Right, remember, listen at the door. We don't mention Corbyn." And I said, "Well, he's the party leader." He said, "No, we don't mention Corbyn. Nobody likes him. Just meant it's all about Justin being elected. That's Justin Madders, our MP. All about Justin being elected. Never mind Corbyn." I said, "Well, how is that going to work? He's been elected the leader of the party. If somebody asks about him, what are you going to say? Oh, we're not interested in Corbyn. We're only interested in getting." It's fucking so putting yourself in isolation. But that's the mentality. They're voting for that man. He's got a Labour suit on. They're voting for him, not the leadership in London. They're not interested. So politically, they do see what's in front of the face, and if they see that their son and daughter can't get a council house because the council aren't building any, or for what, or they're building private housing which are unaffordable, quite rightly they take umbrage to that. And like the Brexit vote, they find something to blame. Right, fuck them. They don't want us to leave, so we're leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, I voted Leave for different reasons, not just to kick it to the working class, kick it to the ruling class. But a lot of people did, like you said. They
Yeah.
just thought, right, I'm going to have a go here. And I still think they do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been said with that. Yeah. Just to finish the thought on the Brexit vote. One of the things that has been a constantly disproven theory is the trickle down theory. It's the idea that if you get people at the top in a capitalist system to become extremely rich, eventually their wealth trickles down the system and reaches the bottom. It's bollocks. It's not true. Everyone knows it isn't true. Well, the Brexit vote was evidence that people don't believe in a trickle down effect because they voted for Brexit, which hurt the ruling class more than it hurt anyone else. And the negative effects of that did not trickle down to the working class. For the working class on the ground, leaving the European Union meant that it was still difficult to get a doctor's appointment. It was still difficult to find somewhere to live, still difficult to find a job, still difficult to find a school place for your kid. All of those things were the same. Now, there are some, the FBPE types, I'm looking at you, would say, well, things are shit because you voted for Brexit. The long and the short of it, it was going to be shit either way.
Yes.
But if it was going to be shit and they were given a chance to kick the ruling class in the bollocks, they were going to take it, and they did.
Yeah.
That's why so many working class people voted for Brexit. And this is why so many people in the sort of middle class socio-economic groups cannot get their heads around why the working class did it. But the fact of the matter was, they knew, because working class people are not stupid, they knew that voting for Brexit would not materially affect them. And it didn't. And it still hasn't.
No.
It's still shit for working class people, as it was in 2016. Okay?
This is the point I make.
Exactly. Nothing's changed.
Made no difference to you,
crap.
has it, Brexit? Made no difference to you. You weren't taking foreign holidays to France. You weren't going over there on job placements, were you?
Yeah.
You weren't going off to the Louvre every weekend to look at the Mona Lisa. Well, no, I've never been there. Well, I said you're entitled to go if you're in Europe.
Yes.
But you'll never be able to afford it.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. So nothing's changed. So get your head around it without.
Absolutely.
I love saying to that. I love saying when they you see them going on FBPEs, and you look in their head and you go, and you see them say about it, and I say, oh, just stop whinging. We voted out. Get a grip.
Yeah,
Leave it at
exactly.
that. Their
Yeah,
heads must explode when they
yeah,
read.
exactly. They won't have it. They will not have it. 9 years on, they will not have it.
They've never stopped
Um,
whinging. I never whinged once after the '75 referendum when we stayed in.
yeah,
I didn't go round
and that was a
constantly.
fix, wasn't it? That was a
Of course,
fix.
it was a fucking fix, but I never, constantly moaning at people. We just accepted it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, with time pressing on, I think it's only right now we turn our attention to the trade unions. You mentioned it earlier about the trade unions and the Labour Party, but I think this is an interesting period because, of course, in 2015, the trade union movement, with one or two notable exceptions, backed Corbyn. Unite is the obvious one. I understand that Len McCluskey, the anointed General Secretary of Unite at the time, actually wanted to back Andy Burnham for leader, but his executive went for Corbyn. And to be fair to McCluskey, he did go, I wouldn't say all in on Corbyn, but he certainly was a big backer and a big financial one too. And most of the trade union movement were of the same ilk. My union at the time, TSSA, backed Corbyn. And there were one or two exceptions, as I said. Usdaw, I'm looking at you, rotten union. They didn't back Corbyn. But anyway, cut a long story short, this is different now because this isn't Labour. So what we have is a
Yeah.
situation whereby we might have some trade union bureaucracies that are going to be quite torn here because they were all in on Corbyn last time around
Yes.
when he was leader of the Labour Party. What will they do now? And the other thing is, and probably a moot point to a degree, it's the membership of the trade unions. What will they do? Well, I would argue they probably won't do anything. I think there's a complete chasm politically between the trade union rank and file membership and the bureaucracies.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
this could split the bureaucracies in the trade unions because obviously they're all Unison, Unite, GMB, CWU, you name it, with the exception of the RMT, the BFAWU, and a couple of others that don't affiliate to political parties because of the fact they represent things like civil servants and teachers and stuff like that. That they are going to find themselves really torn between two stools here because let's be honest, not one trade union, with the exception of the British Food and Allied Workers Union, has disaffiliated from Labour since the collapse of Project Corbyn. Not one. Only
No.
only the BFAWU. No one else. And the question is, what will happen now? What do you think, Terry, will happen in the trade union movement with this rise of Project Corbyn 2.0?
Nothing, to be honest. I think it'll just remain the same. Unless he comes out and says he wants funds or he's going to do things for the union, why would the union go down that route again? Been down it with Labour for years and years and years, and they've got nothing out of it. So if you talk about Sharon Graham talking about withdrawing funds from Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, well, obviously they'd have to go to a conference and then change the rules and blah blah blah. We know all how long that takes. But if the intent was there, then fine. But there's no set amount that they have to give to the Labour Party. It's just that they can give. So they may decide to give money to Corbyn's party to get them going, and so may the others. Perhaps they're going to edge the bets. Because either way, I don't think it's going to make any difference to the union leaders. They're not fucking wanting the anti-trade union laws to be changed. They'd want them to stay. If Corbyn came out and said, I will change every anti-trade union law in existence, the union leaders go, fucking hell. If they do that, we're going to have to start fucking working. People will join unions in mass.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean,
because they realise that they can fight for their own
well,
wages.
if any union affiliated to Labour gave money to Project Corbyn, they would be thrown out. They would be disaffiliated by Labour because that happened to the RMT. The RMT, blimey, when was it? Must have been over 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
A branch in Scotland gave a donation to a Scottish Socialist Party candidate in an election, and for that, Labour threw them out. The RMT, as I understand it, under their rule book, are still required to affiliate to Labour. Basically, it's a legacy from when it was the National Union of Railwaymen and the NUS. They both had it in their rule books. But of course, they're not affiliated. They had a special conference a few years ago and they decided to remain unaffiliated to the Labour Party. But I'll ask you a question. I'll let me know what you think. Do you think Corbyn would say to the trade union movement, affiliate to my party, leave Labour and affiliate to me?
Depends who he's got round him. I'm not sure whether he. No, because I think he's seeing himself as a separate kind of people's representative, not Labour. He was like that before when he was going to football grounds and they were all cheering, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn," and that. And it was like a messiah, not a Labour leader, because people have now fell out with Labour. But I suppose, I don't know, Jason, that's an odd one. That I've never thought of it that way. If he surrounded himself by a lot of people who were sponsored by trade unions, then maybe. Like who sponsors Sultana? She must have some unions in her makeup.
Yeah, I'm sure she has. I'd have to check.
So she may say, "This is a good thing. We'll get money support and we can canvass as a political party, and we'll have affiliation to the unions." You've made a good point there.
Well,
I'd have to look into that and think about that a bit more.
I'll go you one further, Terry. You've got.
Bloody hell, don't give me too much fucking homework.
Well, there's two things.
Fucking hell.
Would Corbyn call on the trade unions to disaffiliate even from Labour and affiliate to his party? That's one question. The second one, is he prepared to see the Labour Party destroyed? Because if you are a leader of a leftist party wishing to stand in the footprint of the existing Labour Party, the only way you're going to do that is to destroy the Labour Party. Now, he has been loyal to the Labour Party for, bloody hell, over 40 years. Well over 40 years. He's been a Labour MP for 40 years. 40 years, since 1983.
Yeah.
Obviously notwithstanding the last general election where he stood as an independent and the period before that when he was kicked out of the party. And through all the things that the Labour Party did, including the illegal invasion of Iraq, the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia and all the other things that, all the terrible things that Labour has done, he did not leave. So the question I would put then is he prepared to stand on a rostrum and say, I want to see the Labour Party destroyed?
No, I'd say no. But if I was standing in his shoes and I'd been shafted the way I was by the Labour Party, then I would say yes.
Yes.
But then again, we're ruthless. He's not got a ruthless bone in his freaking body, I don't think.
No, he hasn't. And the other question, and again, this is probably more a rhetorical question than anything else. Why now? Why not when he got kicked out of the party? Why when he had the whip removed by Sir Keir Starmer a few years ago? Why not then? Why now? Why is he sat there as a...
Well, maybe he's just thinking, how old is he now? 79?
76.
76. He's only 3 years older than me, 4 years older than me. And maybe he's thinking to himself, do you know what? I've had enough. I've had enough of this. But then again, it's like something you've been doing all your life and you're passionate about it. You want to carry on. I like to think of like singers like Tom Jones who seem to go on forever and ever because they're passionate. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that Jeremy Corbyn's anything in the same bracket as Tom Jones, but he's passionate.
I've never heard Corbyn sing. I couldn't sing. But
no, no, but I don't mean that, But no, in the higher echelons of godliness, Tom Jones is up here and Corbyn's down here. That's what I mean.
So yes.
Right. So, but No, he may have sat back and thought, I'll set this party up, I'll get people involved, and then these are the people that will run it, and I'll sit
Yeah, I
back and
think that,
make
yes,
I'll sit and make
yeah,
jam and watch the whole thing fall to shit.
yes,
Labour Party collapse. By
I
the way, the
think,
Labour Party would never collapse. But right at the inaugural meeting of the Workers' Party, I remember Jyoti saying to us that me and Larkin, that our aim is to smash the Labour Party
yeah,
because that's what stands in the way. The Tories, we know, Labour Party stands in the way of progression for the working class.
yeah,
Nothing's changed. So for him to smash the Labour Party would achieve the ends really of what we set out to do prior. And if his party then became the all singing, all dancing party working class, but we still go back to the point of he won't be allowed to do it unless every one of those Labour Party people who were treacherous to him before are gone, are
yeah.
thrown out into the abyss. Then
And
he'll have a
well,
chance.
I would say,
But I prefer to think he'll sit in the background pulling the strings.
exactly. I would say, at the risk of sounding slightly negative about this new project, if he's got the same people around him as he had when he was the leader of the Labour Party, then this project's dead before it's even
Dead in the water.
started.
Dead.
It will be run into a ditch in very, very short order.
Well, yeah, there's someone poked his head up above the parapet, and I thought, well, if he's going to join, it's bound to be a disaster. That's fucking Owen Jones.
Yeah, Owen Jones hitched his wagon to Corbyn's star um,
Again.
quite early on, as he does. Yeah, it's I remember it saying on, I think it was Facebook, or it might have been X, if he's getting involved, well, that's Project Corbyn 2.0 dead before it's even started, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I pointed out to him that, really, you've spent your life, you must get sick of every weekend pulling the splinters out your fucking ass.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't like that.
No, I'm sure he didn't. But no, so going back to the trade union movement, it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see what happens with this project, because there will be people in the trade union bureaucracies, and really, when we're talking about trade unions, we're fundamentally talking about bureaucracies, because they are the only layer within the trade union movement that is tied to the Labour Party. The
Yes.
only ones that want to continue the affiliation with the Labour Party. It's why none of them, be it Unite, Unison, GMB, CWU, you name it, won't have, for sake of argument, a referendum of its own members about its continued affiliation to the Labour Party, because they know they'll lose. They know they'll lose. That's why they don't do it.
Yeah.
The trade union movement, and I'll talk about one particular trade union in a moment as a closing thought, but the trade union movement and the trade union bureaucracy likes the fact that the battlefield is tiny. And by that I mean that there are so few people engaged in trade union bureaucracy and trade union democracy that to win a battle, you only have to win over a relative handful of people at any one
Yes.
time. You don't have to basically poll 1.4 million Unison members or 1.2 million Unite members. You could just do it with a few dozen Unite members or a few dozen
Yeah,
Unison.
yeah.
And I'll close on this. The NASUWT, the National Association of School Teachers Union of Women Teachers, has just
No,
elected
you're going to talk about it.
Matt Rack,
Absolutely.
who in January of this year was booted out unceremoniously as the General Secretary of the Fire Brigades Union, and found himself airdropped straight into a General Secretary position in a teachers' union. I have seen no evidence to suggest he was ever a school teacher. I always thought he was a firefighter.
He was, yes.
He was. The later years of Matt Rack's reign as General Secretary of the FBU were riven with accusations and allegations, and I stress they are accusations and allegations of corruption. There's been a long-standing campaign group in the FBU that's been trying to highlight some of the things that were going on Matt Rack's watch. I'll put a link in the description so you can see it for yourself. But of course, Paul Embry was a executive committee member. Paul Embry being a noted trade unionist and firefighter. He was on the executive committee of the FBU and was booted out in a coup. I suppose a coup wouldn't be a too strong a word, because he spoke at a Brexit rally. And because he shared a platform with Nigel Farage, I mean, I don't mean, when I say shared a platform, he spoke at a different
the
time to
same
Nigel
meeting.
Farage, but on the same stage. The FBU booted him out, and he went to employment tribunal. And initially, I believe, won the employment tribunal, and then on appeal, it was thrown out because his relationship between, or the relationship between Paul Embry and the FBU was not an employer-employee relationship. He was a lay member on a lay committee, but he was treated shabbily by the FBU. But then, having been booted out by the FBU membership, he found himself mysteriously airdropped into a general secretary role of a union he seems to have no professional link to.
Shocked me that.
There apparently was something of a furore that started as a result of that. So the NASUWT thought we better have an election. And Mr. Matt Rack won that election, polling 2.9% of the entire membership. 2.9% of the membership of the NASUWT voted for Matt Rack as their general secretary, which meant 97.1% of the membership did not. And I remember seeing on Twitter a few days ago when the announcement was made that he'd won, all the usual suspects of the trade union bureaucracy came out in force congratulating Matt Rack on his enormous mandate, his huge victory that he won.
He rose out the ashes like the phoenix.
It's like, oh my God, the things never change. What's your reaction to Matt Rack's enormous win?
Incredulous, because
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, it is unbelievable, but in some ways it isn't, because it's what we've said. It's jobs for the boys, interaction between unions and the Labour Party. If a Labour politician becomes kicked out of the thing, they'll find a job. They get him a job on TV. Ed Balls, he's on TV. Yvette Cooper's husband, useless MP, useless commentator, but he's on. He's got a job. This guy, booted out by his lay officials or whatever, finds himself in another job. Yeah. If you're a football manager, you get booted out for being shite. You'll find another team who want to take a shite manager. I don't know any company that does that.
No.
You apply for a job. Why did you leave your last employment? Well, I got sacked. What was the reason? Well, I was lazy, they said. Oh, start in the morning. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't happen, would it?
Yeah.
So Matt Rack, I've got all this experience. Well, what can you bring to the teachers' union? Nothing.
Well, I know how to put a fire out. So if the school burns down, I'll know what
I'm
to do.
all right, yeah.
Yeah. It's always been a given in the trade union movement. If you get hoiked out of office, you'll find a job somewhere else. It might be in the Labour Party. It might be elsewhere in the trade union bureaucracy. In fact, one good example is actually to do with the Fire Brigades Union. Do you remember Andy Gilchrist? Andy Gilchrist
he was the leader before Matt Rack.
I believe he was. Yeah, I'm not sure if he was the leader immediately. He might have been, actually. I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
I think he was.
Matt Rack was in charge of the FBU for 20 years, by the way.
Was he his second in command, or was he the leader before? I can't remember. Yeah, but he was definitely there.
Well, Andy Gilchrist was the general secretary of the FBU when the FBU went into a full-blown confrontation with the Labour Party when the Labour government, this is Blair's government, and the Labour government, the party of the working class, lest we forget, was sending out army green goddesses to act as cover for actual fire appliances. Okay, and these things were older than the pair of us. These things, and they were going around acting as fill-ins, for actual fire engines. And Andy Gilchrist ended up in something of an internal dispute with certain sections of the FBU bureaucracy. He got voted out, or did he resign? I'll have to check. But he certainly stopped being the general secretary of the union, and he ended up getting a job in the RMC as an education officer. So, you know, it's not without precedent. But to be honest with you, I don't remember, and if anyone has got a longer memory than me, then please put something in the comment section on this video. I don't remember a general secretary being booted out by one union and ended up in a general secretary's hot seat of another union within 6 months.
To
I've
be
never
honest
seen
with
anything
you,
like it.
general secretaries don't tend to get booted out, do they?
Well, no,
They
no.
retire after a long and
They tend to
service
leave on their own terms. Yeah.
of support to the union. So for him to get booted out, I would think he was unemployable, because
Well,
if a union boots you out, Jesus Christ, you must have done something fucking wrong.
you are probably in 2025 more likely to retire as a general secretary or resign after being accused of sexual misconduct than you are to get voted out.
Well, I would have thought
Yeah,
that.
it's certainly
There's
that's
some
the pecking order.
United have had some bad leaders, but I can't recall ever one not retiring and probably ending up in the Lords.
Yes, yes.
Now, and go back to Jack Jones. I went to a retirement party he had in Ellesmere Port. When he retired, he was going the country round big branches, and I got invited to the branch in the Civic Hall. I met him there, and he was retiring. And at Moss Evans, yeah, he retired. Yeah, I can go through them all. I don't think any of them has been booted out of my union anyway.
No.
I know a few that I would have booted out, and there's definitely a few in the CWU that I would boot out now.
Yes. Dave Ward were looking at you, mate. Dave Ward MBE were looking at you.
That's another story. Soon to grace the benches of the House of Lords, I imagine.
Of that, I've no doubt. It won't be long now.
When this 3-year less than the cost of living percentage goes through, which it will.
Yes.
Postmen have had enough.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just been kicked out of the lads and lasses. It's just been booted out of them. I'm so lucky. I had it was the greatest job that I've ever had on the post. Free, out all day, out all morning on your own. All you spoke to was people walking past taking the kids to school, old dogs, and people coming back, the milkman, the post, other guys, the copper, everyone. Just a nice job. The work was delivering was hard in the weather, but you were on your own. You had no boss looking over your shoulder. Great job. And when I left, I could see the writing on the wall, and I got the chance to retire early. And I thought, I won't last here in 5 years. My arthritis will see me off, and they'll sack me.
Yeah.
I took before they pushed, I jumped, and now I look at it, I have every fucking sympathy for them.
I do too. I mean, the CWU strike. I know we've talked about it before, and I've almost got it sort of burned into my memory about. They had a ballot at the end of 2022. They had a 90% mandate for strike action. They didn't take a day strike action in 2023, and by June they collapsed. That is an example, a very good contemporary example of why you need to reinvigorate and rejuvenate class consciousness amongst the working class.
Yes.
Because all those workers in Royal Mail were relying on the top table of their union to defend their interests rather than relied on themselves to do it. And so when the top table sold them out, they were demoralized, deflated.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't really know what they could do about it. Didn't really know. Not their fault, but they really didn't know, because they believed all they needed to do, pay their subscriptions. When they got asked to strike, vote for it. And when they were called out, go out. And they did. They did all of those things.
Yeah.
The problem was that when the top table sold them out, they didn't have the class consciousness to go, no, we're not accepting this deal. We're not accepting it. And we actually want your head to the plate now because you tried to accept a deal we don't want.
That's what would have happened in the 70s.
Exactly.
But then again, the union leaders in the 70s wouldn't have done what these characters have done to them, but workers.
Exactly.
They weren't that as bad as that. They've gradually gone a worse caliber of trade union leader. I would elect some of them. In the last 20 years, I'd say I've come across some decent shop stewards in the post office who I would probably say could run the union better than them shysters that are running it now.
Yeah.
At least they've got more commitment to the workers, which is what I think is paramount necessity for a leader is to actually fucking have the respect of the people you're trying to lead.
Yes.
That's to start off.
Yes.
Come from the bottom. I'll lead you, lads.
Yes.
Eugene Debs again. When you rise with your workers, not from your workers. And
yes.
So
No,
that's
it's
something
absolutely
I've
true.
always stuck in my as all the time I was a shop steward secretary, that I was not going to get any better treatment than anyone I worked with, and I stuck by that. It's probably why I stayed as a branch secretary and I would have never got given a full-time officer job ever.
Exactly. Well, I mean, all right. I mean, we're running a little late, but why not make this point before we wrap up? In order for you to get from rank and file level to the very top of the union tree, obviously you have to go through certain steps. You have to go through certain elections. You do a bit of graft on your way up. But the point is, at every step up that ladder, you're being checked. You're being checked politically, and you're being checked for your activity.
Yeah.
And you're also being checked for your beliefs.
Yeah.
And if you don't fit the profile that they want you to fit, you won't get there.
No, you won't.
And as you get to the top of trade unions, as I said, the democracy has atrophied to a point where it doesn't take many to get you into power. It doesn't take many to stop you from getting power as well. And if you don't fit that profile, you will not get to the top. You won't. You just won't.
I met one official that, to me, was destined to become a regional secretary and maybe a national officer. And I would say he was the weakest shop steward I'd ever met in my life. But he went through what you've just said, through the rigmarole, where the question that they asked him, he diluted himself to be able to answer those questions to get to that next stage. And once you've diluted your beliefs, it's easy after that to dilute him a bit more. My words, I'm just thinking that I would looked at him to become a regional officer and then a national officer, and then you're in the pool for the leader, or at least you're on the slate. And that's something that most shop stewards would never achieve because they've got more integrity than to sell the fucking soul for a mess of pottage. That's just my belief. And they're the salt of the earth, and they don't get the recognition they deserve. The unions are slagged off because of the shit leaders that they've got, not because of the great leaders that they've got lower down.
Yeah. And you mentioning dilution brings us almost full circle, doesn't it? Because which leader held an anti-Trident position and then effectively flipped into a pro-Trident position?
Yeah.
Corbyn.
Diluted himself.
Who spent 40 odd years holding Eurosceptic views and then campaigned to remain in the European Union? It was Corbyn.
Yeah.
So the closer you get to the very top, the more compromise you're going to get. And unless you toe the line, you'll be chewed up and spat out.
This is why you look at it, Jason, and you see the caliber of union official and the caliber of MP, because they've set out from the beginning to decide where they're going to go as a career and what they're going to do. They're not bothered about whether they represent people at the bottom. Yeah, they'll do that to get elected to a full-time official. And once they're there, then that's when they do the dilution and they try and dilute the others and all that. And an MP is the same. They come out of college and their sole aim is to become an MP.
Yes.
Not my aim to have an aim of, I want to represent the working class. Their aim is to be an MP to represent themselves.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. That's now when the guy who's our MP now, he's been MP for what? 10 years? Say 10 years. The MP before him, Miller, people go on about Justin Matters, and I say, but at least he wasn't like the last one, a member of the Labour Friends of Israel. Straight away, he fucking shut up then, because he was. Now, there's a couple of women that I know were on the council told me that when he was an up-and-coming councillor, he was told by Miller to you could probably take this off this tape.
All
But
right.
he was told by them, keep away from those 2 or 3. These were the militants on the council, probably some Trotskyites among them. Keep away from them, keep your nose clean, and you'll take over from me. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what they do. It's their careerist politicians, and they talk a good game at galas and opening fetes and shit like that. But they no more want to stand on a picket line than they do put pins in the fucking eyes.
Yeah.
I have never once heard of him going down on a picket line, or any of them.
No. No.
You might get the token gesture over the years. John McDonnell goes to a picket line, or well, Thingy's gone down as a left wing, get dragged away at a campaign for nuclear disarmament. Corbyn. But if they actually got what they achieved, like you were saying about Stonewall, what's left for them? Their aim in life is just to protest, and when that protest has gone, they've got nothing left to do. Oh,
yeah.
What do I do now?
Exactly.
Well, Corbyn, to me, is to finish it off on him now. For me, we've said it. He's diluted his views down from 40 years ago to now, and this is where he's come. This party, to me, is a dilution of Corbyn's beliefs. All the things he did as a Labour leader, he'll believe now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll close on Project Corbyn 2.0 by saying this: unless Corbyn, Sultana, the inner circle, whoever they might be, and the 500,000 email addresses / members of this new party / mailing list, unless they've learned anything from the lessons of 2015 to 2020, it will end up exactly as it did at the beginning of 2020. It will end up in a complete dead end.
I agree.
And you cannot change the world with just hope. You need to have a plan. And as far as I'm concerned, the only plan is Marxism-Leninism.
That's a good way of ending that, then.
Thank you.
That is the only plan.
It is the only plan. It is.
You've got to have a belief. You can't just hope.
You've got to have a plan.
You've got to have a belief in yourself.
Hope alone won't get you through.
You can't hope that you're going to win the world title. You've got to actually work at it.
Yes, exactly. And you've got to know how to
believe you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that brings our fascinating discussion about Project Corbyn 2.0 and the trade unions to an end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did talking to you. I want to say thank you to my friend and comrade, Terry Eaton, again. Thanks for joining me, Terry.
Okay, Jason, no problem. See you soon.
See you soon. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again very, very soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.